Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, taking a fun and exciting episode for you guys today, and one that's going to be very forward-thinking and require a lot of technical explanation. That is because there is a new tool in development called PSY-Z. If that doesn't sound familiar, I wouldn't be surprised because you're not supposed to know what it is, but maybe PSY-Q will sound a little bit more familiar. That was a software development system for the original PlayStation 1 that would allow you to actually code and compile games to release at retail. It wasn't the official SDK, it was just another one, and back in the day, different manufacturers and even publishers and developers would make their own software development kits for certain pieces of hardware. And because PSY-Q could compile PlayStation 1 code to a PlayStation hardware base, that's what it was meant for. But now with PSY-Z, you're going to be able to do a lot more, and what that really means is once decompilations exist, there's going to be easy tooling to bring them into a PC port environment. And when I say easy, it still is a metric crap ton of work. It is just work that can be done with a modern tool set. And this is based at least in part on the Castlevania Symphony of the Night decomp, but it's going to be a long road to get to that. Now, taking a look at the GitHub repo here for PSY-Z, that's how I'm pronouncing it as well. I'm pretty sure that is the correct way to do it. It's a drop-in replacement for the PlayStation 1 runtime library called PSY-Q, and that allows games that are coded for the PlayStation 1 to be compiled and run basically on modern platforms. So this really is a modern compiler. If you have a 100% decompiled PlayStation 1 code base, you could use something like PSY-Z to then port it over to a modern x86 instruction set, maybe even ARM. We'll have to wait and see. And just recently, I've been talking a lot about the Silent Hill decompilation project, and one of the PC ports is in existence. Another one will be coming out, hopefully in the future. So if you took 100% of that base, put it through PSY-Z, you could then theoretically recompile it to a modern platform as a Windows executable or quote-unquote a PC port. Now again, it requires still a lot of human intervention. A compiler only does some things. There are still a lot of manual bits, but it is very exciting. And you'll see here, PSY-Z adheres to the PSY-Q library contracts, focusing on compatibility rather than accuracy. So it's basically trying to pivot up all of the different CPU code, all of the different calls to hardware, and then transposing them into a modern environment. Because don't forget, the MIP CPU on a PlayStation 1 and all of the sound and audio hardware have absolutely nothing in relationship to the hardware in your computer right now, outside of the fact that they both run some form of code, and clearly they are digital quote-unquote computers for lack of a better term. And as far as the connection to Castlevania Symphony of the Night and that decomp, which is still in active development, some of the actual PSY-Q stuff was decompiled to aid in both the Symphony of the Night decompilation and then just in other projects as well. And it really is interesting to see how many of these projects actually inform one another. It's basically just like a giant bowl of spaghetti. It's a noodly mess of what came first, what gets used, and how that can inform new projects going forward. But it's positive because it means the community is making these things, driving them forward, and basically giving us all a better experience in the future. Because modern development tools, especially for PC ports, are going to allow for more decomps to get ported to PC faster. Because having a decompiled PlayStation 1 game and having the source code is only step 1. Step 2 is to actually port it over to something that it can be run on. So Cycross here, the original SDK, or at least one of them for the PlayStation 1, this is a compatibility framework for building and running PSY-Q SDK-based PlayStation games across other platforms as well. So this really is an intermixing of a bunch of different tools, both legacy tools as well as modern tools, so that we're going to get some more PC ports on the PlayStation 1 side of things in the future. But to be clear, you actually have to have a decompiled game to be able to port it. This is not a static recompilation tool in the way you think about it on the N64 side of things. And I know it can get complicated. We have static recomps, we have PC ports based upon decompilation projects. It kind of, in the end, does the same thing, which is allow you to play them on your PC, but it does them in a different manner. And even the PSY-Q tool has been decompiled, so it's a decomp based upon a tool to take decomps and make new versions out of them. It really is the Russian nesting doll of absolute technology, which will lead into more fun games to play like Gamera 2000 here. It's also our lead into the next soundtrack sample, so go ahead and listen, and I'll be right back with a lot more tech deep dive information. Mostly I just made you listen to that because every time I show Gamera 2000 footage, people ask what the name of the game is, so now you know. So going over the Symphony of the Night decomp, you're going to see on the PSS XDK side of things here, decompiled libraries, and that is leading back to the PSY-Q stuff, as well as the PSY-Z stuff that it is utilizing it. And again, I understand that this can be absolutely a tangled web of all interconnecting different bits of software that allow us to compile games for PlayStation 1 and then for new hardware as well. And remember, static decompilation is one thing, compilation is another thing. If you have a software development kit for something like a PlayStation 5 right now, and you use the compiler, you're just compiling the code to its native architecture, where a static recompiler, like we see on the N64 side of things, is actively recompiling the code at runtime to allow it to run on new target hardware. And I totally get it, this confuses the ever-loving hell out of a lot of people, but just remember, a static recomp is different than a compilation, and just basically run with it from there. Because like I said earlier, it doesn't really matter in the end, the difference between a recomp and a PC port when you're playing one of your favorite PlayStation 1 games on PC. It really does not matter. And as far as the Symphony of the Night decompilation is concerned, I know you're going to ask about it. It is still in active development. Hopefully we see some more movement on it soon. And something like PSY-Z could be useful for porting that over to PC as well. So this all informs everything else. And you'll see here the PSY-Q decomp. This is an older project which PSY-Z is using and basing itself on. It's a work in progress decompilation of the actual PSY-Q SDK. And if that name again does not sound all that familiar, going back to a period ad, this was a piece of hardware and software made so that you could actually develop games for the PlayStation 1. And back in the day, different companies would also invent their own hardware development tools as far as the console and how it interacted with the software development kit are concerned. We saw it on the Super Nintendo, we saw it on the PlayStation 1, we saw it on the Sega Genesis. Now, I am not aware, but I'm pretty sure today, if you're trying to develop a game for the Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5 or even Nintendo Switch 2, there aren't third-party software kits and tools out there hardware-wise to be able to do that. But if you do have an answer to that question, go ahead and leave it down below. But this really is a very fun development because tooling that allows games from PlayStation 1 to be brought over to new target hardware, in this instance Linux as well as Windows, are going to aid in getting more PC ports in the future. And because decomps, recomps, and PC ports are all the rage in retro gaming right now, these tools are going to be a very robust suite to allow more developers to realize those projects. And that's why you see a lot of different N64 recomps and PC ports right now, because there is a very robust suite of software to be able to do all of that work. That's not to say the developers don't work really hard, they do it themselves, but having tools to be able to use makes it a lot easier to realize your projects than having to create the tool first and then the project second. It's the same way when I edit these videos. If I had to develop the concept of DaVinci Resolve before I was able to actually sit down and edit, you would never see a single video because I'm not going to be able to make that whole thing myself. But this is definitely forward thinking. I can't wait to see what it yields as far as information and results are in the future. But let's go into another soundtrack sample just because we've mentioned Symphony of the Night, and I would absolutely lose my retro gaming card membership if I didn't make you listen to some Symphony of the Night music, as it still is the best music ever set to a Castlevania game. So go ahead and listen, and I'll be right back. So yeah, that soundtrack sample served to provide nothing to the video outside of the fact that it's my channel. I can make you listen to Symphony of the Night if I want to. So PSY-Z definitely is going to be a very promising tool because it's going to allow people to actually bring more PlayStation 1 games over to PC as well as Linux. And honestly, that is a 10 out of 10 fun reality, and it's something I absolutely want to see because you have to remember there are a decent amount of PlayStation 1 decomps in development, but as far as the tooling on actually using that and bringing it somewhere new, that is still in development, and that is a great thing. Because we have the Silent Hill decompilation at 99.88% as of the recording of this video. We have stuff like Symphony of the Night and a bunch of other PlayStation 1 games being actively decompiled now. And when it hits the point where those decomps can then be ported over, having new tools to potentially aid in the development just means more PC ports for you and I to play faster with more efficiency, and in the end that means everyone wins. The developers have a good tool set to be able to work, and we get great games coming over to PC that we can play to our heart's content. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I know this video got a little bit technical, but I think you guys were able to hang with it. Just think of it like this. It's a hammer for a nail and you'll be fine. Short of that, we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.